It's amazing how China's beauty market just keeps on growing,
Yeah.
despite all those economic uncertainties you hear about.
Right.
I mean, it's really interesting to me, so I'm glad we're diving into these articles today.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the things I was wondering is, can these big Western brands
Mm.
really stay on top when you have local brands that seem to get what Chinese consumers want at such a deep level?
Well, I think that's what makes this market so fascinating. It really kind of like defies expectations in a way.
Yeah.
Because you see this kind of push and pull,
Hmm.
where you have these Western brands that are really kind of holding their own.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, you have this like surge of local brands.
Yeah.
And it's all happening against this, complex economic backdrop in China.
Yeah. And speaking of that, one article mentioned how luxury brands like Estée Lauder are actually raising prices right now,
Mm-hmm.
even with the economic slowdown.
Yeah.
And then there was that whole controversy on Xiaohongshu,
Right.
which, for our listeners who might not know, is basically like China's Instagram, right?
Exactly.
Where
Yeah.
everybody goes for these product reviews.
Yeah.
And people were not happy about Estée Lauder hiking up those prices.
Well, I mean, you can understand the backlash, though, because it's almost like a case study, right, of the lipstick effect,
Oh, interesting.
where even when times are tough, people still want those little luxuries.
Right.
And lipstick is kind of like the perfect example because
Yeah.
it's like an affordable indulgence.
It feels good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It boosts your morale, but at the same time, there's a limit. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
Consumers aren't dumb.
Right.
They know if a brand is maybe pushing it a little bit,
Yeah.
especially with so many deals online, and duty-free shopping.
It makes you wonder if some of these luxury brands are kind of misreading the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sense of all of this then? Because it feels like this constant back and forth, right, between the allure of a Western brand, but then this sense of national pride that comes with the local brands.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's like this really interesting dance between what's familiar and what's new.
Right.
So on the one hand, you have these powerhouses, right, like Estée Lauder, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, their sales in China last year, they grew by 25%, which is huge, way faster than anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
But then on the flip side, you have these local brands like Proya, Florasis.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
Yeah, and they're really like bursting onto the scene. And they're smart. They're using that local knowledge. They're appealing to that sense of being Chinese,
Yeah, it's like David versus Goliath.
Exactly.
Well, in this case, they both have amazing products.
Exactly.
So what is it about those Western brands that still holds so much power? Is it just image, or is there something more to it? Okay, so we've got this battle of the brands going on, but let's talk about the products themselves for a second.
Okay.
What are Chinese consumers actually looking for in their beauty routines these days?
Well, one interesting thing I noticed, at least from these articles, is this shift. Like skincare used to be king,
Right, right.
But now makeup is having a real moment, especially lipstick.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Given that whole lipstick effect thing.
Exactly.
And it's not just like any lipstick.
No, absolutely not.
It's bold, it's a statement.
Exactly.
One of the articles even called out MAC's Ruby Woo,
A classic.
which, classic red, never goes out of style.
Never goes out of style, exactly. And I think that speaks to this desire. Like, people want to express themselves.
Yeah,
Makeup lets you do that.
totally.
You can be bolder, you can show confidence, and it's not just limited to lipstick either. Some of these articles talked about the rise of scalp care, too,
Interesting.
which I think shows how people are thinking about beauty more holistically now.
It's like total well-being.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just about covering up flaws anymore.
Right.
It's about investing in yourself inside and out. And this is where I think those local brands, you were saying earlier how they really get the Chinese consumer.
Uh-huh.
This is where they excel, I think.
How so?
They've really nailed this idea of storytelling,
Okay.
connecting with consumers on this deeper emotional level. They're not just pushing products, they're weaving these narratives.
So can you give me an example? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, take silk, for instance. The way they're using silk in beauty products now.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Why is that?
Think about it. Silk has this incredible history in China, right?
Great luxury.
Exactly. It represents luxury refinement. So when you put silk into a skincare product, you tap into that, you elevate it.
It's not just a cream anymore. It's an experience.
Precisely. It's a connection to this rich heritage. And then, of course, you've got this whole digital landscape.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget about that.
One of those articles said China is the undisputed leader when it comes to online shopping for beauty.
It's true. I do most of my shopping online these days.
And platforms like WeChat, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like, imagine WhatsApp, Facebook, and Venmo all in one app. That's WeChat.
Right.
Brands are using it for everything, sharing their stories, working with KOLs.
KOLs as in?
Key opinion leaders, big influencers, basically.
Oh, right.
And of course, then you have these massive online shopping festivals. It's a whole different ballgame.
It's amazing how these brands are really weaving together tradition and technology and trends.
And that's what gives those local brands an edge, I think. Yeah.
They're not just selling a product, they're selling this whole vision.
Right.
And it really seems to resonate.
So where does that leave Western brands then? Do they need to completely rethink their approach?
I think there's always room,
Yeah.
for brands that are willing to really innovate, to adapt, but they can't just rest on their laurels, right?
Right.
Western brands, I think, really need to kind of step it up.
Yeah.
If they want to be competitive in this market. They've got to embrace that authenticity, that understanding of the consumer that these local brands have,
So it's not enough to just, show up anymore.
No, not at all.
You really have to show up and connect on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that means understanding the culture, right?
The digital landscape, what Chinese consumers are looking for, it's all changing so fast.
It's like a whole reset, not just a tweak here and there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a whole new way of thinking.
And the ones who can do that, they'll be the ones who really thrive.
So any predictions then for what's next in the Chinese beauty scene? What's got you intrigued?
Well, one thing that caught my eye was this whole waterless beauty trend.
Waterless beauty. Okay, tell me more.
It's still pretty new, but I think it has huge potential.
So what is it exactly?
So basically, it's beauty products, but formulated with little or no water.
Interesting.
And it fits in with this global sustainability movement, right?
Right.
Which is becoming a bigger deal in China, too.
So are we talking like powders and concentrates?
Yeah, exactly.
Or even completely new innovations?
Exactly. And just imagine the marketing possibilities there. Appealing to people who care about the environment,
Yeah.
but also want the latest and greatest products.
It could really change the whole industry.
I think so.
It's amazing how this market really reflects, these larger trends.
Yeah.
Tradition and technology, sustainability, cultural identity.
It's fascinating.
It's complex. It's always changing.
Keeps you on your toes.
That's for sure. Well, there you have it, a deep dive into China's beauty cravings.
Absolutely.
We talked about the competition, the evolving consumer, even a peek into this waterless future.
It's a fascinating world.
Hopefully our listeners are feeling inspired, maybe even a little more equipped to navigate this dynamic landscape.
Absolutely. And remember, understanding your audience, that's key.
So true.
Especially in a market as dynamic as China.
Empathy and adaptability, right?
Exactly.
Words to live by. Until next time, then, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deep.
I love it. See you next time.